Hey, so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about Padlet and how you can use it. So this is kind of like a follow-up resource to some of the professional development we had back in December. So here I've kind of logged into my Padlet account. It's really easy to set one up. It's free. There is a premium version that you can buy, but I have yet to see a reason to buy that. And so here's kind of your dashboards where all your Padlets kind of live. And so you have like recent ones, the ones you've created, different ones you've shared with. You can sort it by name, by date, and then others that you've kind of pulled from Padlet itself that you wanted to use with your students. And that's kind of where you can find everything. You can also kind of start and create a new Padlet here, and that's what we're going to do is kind of walk through some of the basics of creating a Padlet. And what's great about Padlet is something that's super easy for students to use. They don't need an account to interact with it, and they can put all of their different types of classroom materials all in one place and comment on each other and talk about it. So we're going to kind of do a deep dive into what Padlet can do. So I'm just going to make a new Padlet for practice, and there's all these different options. You can create a wall, a canvas, a stream, grid, or a shelf. And so you can kind of organize the Padlet in the way that you want it to, and so it functions the way that you're trying to use it with your class. For example, if you're having them submit different projects and they're working in groups, but they all have their own piece within the group that they need to submit for a given topic, the shelf might be a really good tool for that. Or if you're just going to have it kind of act as a stream where you're saying, hey, students are going to figure out a picture that represents this concept and upload it to the Padlet, you could use something like stream or the wall. So we're going to use the wall for this example. And so I'm going to select that. And then it kind of gives you this default background. And so most of the changes are all going to be coming from this right-hand side. You can edit the title, you can add a description, you can change the wallpaper. There's a bunch of different options that you can add. You can add your own, so you can pull an image from the desktop or somewhere in the computer and put that as your main image. I'm going to go with this one. And then you can keep scrolling down here. Themes are part of the premium package. You can add a little icon on the top, totally not really necessary. The big pieces down here too are posting. So the attribution piece is great. It can display the author's name with each post. However, it's not going to show the student's name unless they have an account. So if you don't plan on having kids have their own Padlet account, this isn't very important. And then you can set up how it's posting. So whether it's the first thing that's posted in the front or it's the last one that's posted. And then you want to go down here to collaboration where you can turn on comments. So that'll allow other viewers to comment. And then you can also turn on this reactions piece. And then there's a bunch of different ones that they have here. So you can have them be able to like posts, they can upvote, downvote, give stars, and they can even grade. I haven't used this function really, but this is just one way that they could interact along with commenting on each other's posts. And then down at the very bottom is the address. So for example, if you want your students to access the Padlet, you could copy this link and put it into a place like OneNote or the collaboration space, and students could then always kind of know where to go to access your Padlets. So we're going to scroll back up to the top. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And this is where it gets to setting up the privacy. I don't ever create any of my Padlets to be public. I usually just stick with secret, so only people with links can access them. If it's something that you want kids to submit their PowerPoints and make it have a firm due date associated with it, you could password protect it after the due date is passed, and so the students can no longer add to the Padlet, so you know which kids were able to get their PowerPoint added to the wall in time. And so I usually use secret. You can kind of manage those permissions, so you can decide how do I want them to be interacting with it. Can they only read? Can they write? Can they moderate? Moderating is a great tool, so you can have one student maybe preview different posts before they get posted on the wall. And so as the teacher, you're not having to moderate everything, but you can kind of put a responsible student in charge of moderating. And so that's a cool feature. So I'm going to leave it on they can write. You can invite kids through email using this, but I think it's a lot easier just to share a link using OneNote. And you want to make sure you add that moderation piece if you want to make sure that there's some level of moderation before something gets thrown onto the wall. And then you hit next, and your content is ready to go. So you can start posting. This is kind of what the wall will look like when they click on the link. And for them to add anything, they just go over here to hit this plus sign. And then I recommend, if they don't have an account, for them to put their name as their title, or maybe as part of the description. And then here's a couple different things they can do. They can add an attachment. They can do a voice recording. They could add a video recording of themselves. They could add a picture. They could add a document. This plus sign allows them to kind of pull a website here or drop a file there. And so it all just kind of is part of this preview feature, which is really nice. And so people can like actually click on the PowerPoint without having to go to PowerPoint itself. And kids can always edit their posts if they want to. And then for you to share, you can also go up here to the share feature, and that'll bring you back to this space. You can go to share, export, and embed, and that'll give you some different options for sharing the Padlet. And then you can also export the entire wall as a PDF. So if it's something that you're finished with it and you don't need them to go back to Padlet anymore, you could save it as a PDF and just throw it in OneNote so it's a resource that's there in the future. So there's kind of the basics of Padlet. You can also change your settings over here and go back and modify stuff. But the best way to kind of get used to this is just jumping in. One way that I've used it in the past is with learning targets. So having kids articulate their understanding of a learning target. I'll have my learning target up here as part of the title. And then I'll just see kind of all the different ways that someone could show that they understand the learning target.